Joining me now is Nevada Democratic Congressman Steve Horsford, whose district Republicans are targeting to flip this November. So, look, you know that Sahil's right. They're going to say this is only going to make inflation worse. We know that gas prices have been coming down. Democrats have that on their side. But in terms of this bill, once it gets signed, actually having impact, actually people feeling it in their pocketbooks, can it happen quickly enough to help folks like you?
Well, thank you for having me on, Chris. It's great to be able to talk about these issues. And this is all about putting people over politics. At the beginning of your show, you talked about a number of legislative achievements that the Democrats in the House and the Senate, along with the president, have advanced for the American people. And this week, with the Inflation Reduction Act, we're going to continue to do that by reducing costs for seniors, with their prescription drug costs, including a provision that I helped to advance to cap out-of-pocket costs at $2,000 per person, lowering energy costs, which is one of the major drivers of inflation, and helping to reduce healthcare costs, which is still one of the most important issues that people in my district talk to me about and are facing right now.
So for people who say to you, and I'm sure you'll get this on the campaign trail, my food costs are still way too high, my housing costs have gone way up, or my kid who just graduated college can't find an apartment that he or she can afford, what are you going to say to them? Tell me how you think this is going to play in your election campaign.
Well, in addition to this legislation, the Inflation Reduction Act, which does, again, reduce costs for constituents right here in Nevada and all across the country, we are working to actually tackle other issues, including the higher cost of housing. I've introduced the HOME Act, the Housing Oversight and Mitigating Exploitation, where we've seen these corporate out-of-state speculators buying up properties and driving up costs. And so in addition to the legislation that we're moving on, we're going to continue to put people over politics and continue to address their issues, not the issues of special interests and big corporations.
So let's talk taxes, because the one thing you don't want to do on the campaign trail is defend higher taxes. And while these are targeted to corporations and top earners, this bill does raise taxes in a period of economic downturn. Republicans are already trying to take advantage of that. What do you say to folks who say any tax increase right now, when the recession word is still out there, is a mistake?
The only people talking about raising taxes on families, on hardworking Americans, are Republicans who've advanced a written agenda to do just that, including to defund Social Security and to roll back benefits under Medicare. So, as you rightfully noted, this bill targets 150 corporations with income of $1 billion or more that are not paying their fair share. And it's about closing tax loopholes so that they can actually contribute to the needs of our country at a critical moment, so that we reduce costs on consumers and make those who are not contributing now pay their share by closing those tax loopholes.
You just heard Monica reporting that the White House is looking at two big issues in the November elections. One, we just talked about, which is the economy and inflation. The other is abortion. You support abortion rights. Your opponent says he will sponsor federal legislation to curb abortion access. So in the wake of the overturning of Roe, what do you see as the full stakes of your election? Well, what I see is that women deserve to have the freedom to make their own health care decisions. And we should not allow an ideologically driven Supreme Court or conservatives in Congress, if they're able to win a majority, to impose a federal ban on a woman's freedom to make her own health care decisions. This is about choice, but it's also about contraception. It's also about what other rights are going to be eroded. And we're not going back. I've been talking to my constituents, and they don't want to go back to the days where women don't have the freedom to make their own decisions, where voting rights are being deteriorated, where we lose the benefits under the Affordable Care Act. We're not going back to those days. We're going forward. And the American people know that this is a consequential election and that there are clear choices. And so my record is very clear, and I'm willing to put my record up against my opponents when it comes to giving women the freedom to make their own health care decisions.